We'll be doing this in English today, so also hello to our listeners. I know this seems awkward. Hello, I know that guy as well. This seems awkward saying this on stage, but hello to our listeners as well. This podcast is in English because we're at the amazing Austrian Startup Summit on stage together with Markus and myself. Markus, how are you?
A bit stressed, but generally I'm very happy to see so many familiar faces, and it's always a nice family get-together.
Good. How come you're stressed?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if everybody actually recognized that, but for example, these chairs were a bit late, so 10 minutes before the start of the events, there were no chairs in this room. Stuff like that happens when you organize events.
Yeah, but we finally have chairs because chairs apparently are a thing. We have our guest. How should I introduce you? I have the feeling I've known you forever. Actually, Markus has known you even longer. And you are not just a highly successful founder, but you are someone who's gone through all of the ranks of entrepreneurship you can go in Austria. You've done it all. Karl, it's very good to have you here. How's life?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Like you said, I think we are a role model for experiencing all the different institutions, events, organizations, startup fairs, competitions, etc. We know each other from the pitch competition from Entrepreneurship Avenue. We know each other from university. And I think, first of all, I have to say a big thank you to you two guys and all the other ones behind all the events, because I'm 100% certain that we wouldn't be here in this situation, at least I wouldn't be here, if it wouldn't be for you guys organizing all these amazing things around the startup scene. So I would say a big hand for those two.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, how come you didn't give us any money after the exit then?
You didn't call.
Well, here I am. Give me the briefcases. Now, let's slow down. So, you guys met, I think, in 2012? 13?
13, 14, something
Okay,
like
okay.
that.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Okay, let's kind of slow down, or make this story, which is kind of known already, a little compact. Okay, so you did it, had an idea, and founded your first company. Before you did all like the typical student things, consulting and blah, blah, blah. Tell us, like, in a couple minutes, your compressed story up to now.
Yeah, I think we started, so Simon, he's also in the audience. Daniel and I started straight from uni in 2015. And he's doing a selfie right now. And actually we were at the View, and we had the idea of Tinder for jobs. So we were ourselves looking for jobs. We experienced a really painful process of searching for jobs, applying for jobs. And then at this point we said, come on, we can do this better. And we built a really strong idea of Tinder for jobs. So the vision was more or less putting good people into good jobs in the fastest, easiest, and most enjoyable way. And I think that strong vision guided us since then, and guided us from zero, so 3 students without any real experience, to building a company, a profitable company with more than 100 employees within 9 years. And then early this year, we sold the company to Karriere.at, which is the market leader in recruiting in Austria. And yeah, I think we kind of played the whole startup roller coaster till the end. And we're really thankful for that. And I'm really happy to tell all the interested people all the insights that I can give, because I would have wished to have a lot more insights back then when we started.
I have one question, because I know that also in the audience and also from our listeners, there's lots of people who are studying and thinking about starting their own business. And what I often see as a struggle in these times is that potential customers don't take you seriously if you're coming from university directly. And they question whether you really have the guts to go through with it. What do you think did you do to earn that trust from potential customers?
I would even say that it's actually a strength not to be taken too serious, and it's even a strength to come from university, back then when we started, we even got our first sales appointments by telling potential clients that we have a uni project going on and we need some interview partners. I would even go so far as it's even a good thing not to have a product back then, because what happened to us, we arranged the first sales appointments, but we were still at uni, we didn't have a formal company, we didn't have a product. What happened in those sessions, we came in and then they asked us, okay, where do you want to plug in your presentation and tell us your product and tell us why you are better and how much money you want to have. We didn't have all that. So we kind of got in there and we said, okay, we don't have a presentation actually, but we want to talk. Tell us about your pain. Tell us about the recruiter's pain in their daily life. Where do you struggle? What's the problem? Why is it hard to get the right employees? And the same is true for the other side. And this kind of created a totally new atmosphere. In the beginning, was really awkward and weird. I remember one appointment at a big bank in Vienna, and we came in there, and then Daniel and I back then stood it up, not anymore. And we came in, and we expected 1 or 2 recruiters sitting in there, and we didn't have anything. Like we had blank sheet of paper. We came in, and then there were like 15 recruiters. And they asked us, okay, now tell us why your product is better. And we said, yeah, actually we don't have a product yet, but let's talk. And in the beginning it was a bit awkward, but then step by step it really turned into the best session we had. They canceled all the follow-up meetings they had. I think we sat there for like 2.5 hours. And they kind of, they took part of our idea kind of. And throughout the process of building a product, they continuously helped us. They kind of felt that they are part of this. They can help, they can guide us, they can shape it with us. And they really gave us a lot of insight. So I would even say, being still at university, not having a product at all is a big advantage. First of all, you have nothing to lose. Second of all, you can just go there and really listen. So you don't have to sell. Everyone is expecting you to sell something when you're not selling. They're really opening up. Everybody wants to be everybody wants to be heard. And now at this situation, you can really listen, and that's a big game changer, I would say.
That was a special effect. It was about attention seeking. Now I'm curious, just coming out of university, I mean, you learned in university how to build a company, so you were full of theory, you knew it all, you started the company. Reflecting back, how big was the delta between the theory you'd learned and the reality you met?
How big can it be? What's the biggest?
Understood.
No, actually, I think we got a really good toolkit. So when I think back to university, I think you get a really good toolkit to have a proper business understanding, to be able to build business models, to be able to build business plans, to listen to the pitch doctor and learn how to pitch a company.
Professor, please.
Professor, sorry.
Dude, it's Austria. It's all about titles.
Yeah. No, but honestly, I think you know nothing. But then when you're open-minded and when you're eager to build something, that's not a problem, I would say. If it's even, you're kind of naive. And when we now think about starting again, we kind of fear that we're not naive enough anymore.
We'll get to that in a second, because this is something we want to focus on in this conversation. However, we'd also like to kind of work up to the exit. So when you started your first company, and I'd like to intertwine the first question up there, did you start and develop your company specifically with the goal of being eventually sold to a larger market player? Or in other words, when you started Hokify, what was the original name of Hokify?
JobSwiper.
JobSwiper, thank you. So when you started JobSwiper, what was like the end goal? We're going to be #1 in the world, or we're going to buy 10 Lambos, or what was it in your head you chased, or the big exit?
I think, first of all, here in Austria, we tend to think too small, and we were the same. So when we started we had in the first launch, we had 4 companies, 100 jobs on the platform, and we thought when everyone at the WU Vienna knows us, we made it. We have like a really cool, successful, big company. So we were really thinking so small. And so I think that's the first thing that everyone should keep in mind, think way bigger. For us, I think that was, the first thing was,
I have to interrupt you
Yeah,
there.
do it.
How would you, if you were to travel back in time and meet your buddies and yourself, and you go like, dude, think bigger.
Yes.
I think for me, the think bigger part is very hard to grasp. What does it mean? Sell earlier, go to larger customers, ask for more money, hire quicker. What does it mean, think bigger?
I think to inform yourself about the options you really have. Back then when we started, we weren't really aware of all the options we had. So I give you some examples. So when we started and we looked for financing, we were so frustrated and there was not a lot of options out there. We even went into a third basement of a club owner in Vienna, and the doors and the wall were soundproof. We wanted sure that we came out alive with all our organs intact, because we were so desperately in need of this funding round, so we were doing anything. But now, with more distance, I think even back then there were great options, but we weren't even aware of all the great options. So I would even say, think what you actually want to build. So I would never build something with the goal of selling it. We didn't do it, of course. But think about what you want to build. Is it a legacy, actually, where you don't want to be a VC-driven business, you want to stay in full control, you want to build a company that's profitable, that grows a bit slower? Fair enough. Or do you want to build like a unicorn? Think big, think about all the options. I mean, especially right now, I think there's a lot of money to be deployed of all the VCs in Europe and beyond. And why not reach out to them? I mean, they also have to get a deal flow. So I think, just make yourself aware of all the options you have and then go for it.
I like that. Okay. Now, you've kind of come out alive out of that third basement from the left without being stabbed or shot, so that's quite good. You start building your company. Obviously, it gets a success story. When's the first time someone knocked on your door and said, look, boys, what you've built is nice. We'd like to have it. Talk us through that.
I think for us, we had a kind of predetermined path with our first or second funding round. Back then, Karriere.at already invested. And this means we were partnering up with a strategic investor. So I'm really thankful for that on the one hand, because without the investment back then, we wouldn't be here. On the other hand, of course, when you decide for strategic investor, you also limit your options. In the last couple of years, we had a couple of options to go bigger, to get more funding, to scale up more. But having a strategic investor on board kind of limits you. Karriere.at, on the other hand, is one of the biggest legacy companies here in Austria that was built by 3 founders within their lifetime. It's a great company. They are usually successful. But for us, it kind of meant that on the one hand, we cannot hyper-growth. We were talking about it today. On the other hand, it meant that we kind of had a predetermined path. We grew profitable pretty fast, and having a profitable company in a market where your strategic investor is market leader kind of makes them want to have the whole company. And this was the case for us.
But at that moment when you decided to take them on board, were you completely aware of all the consequences that would have? And how was the discussion in the team also? Were you all agreeing immediately this is the way to go, or was that the point where you felt, okay, this is now crossroads and actually we should go in depth about what that means for us?
I would say that we didn't know the consequences at all. This goes back to being aware of all the options you have, and you should be aware about that. We haven't been, I would say. We didn't know the consequences back then. Would we do it again in the same way? Probably not, but it's hard to tell in hindsight.
And when did you find out about the consequences? Was there a moment in time when you said, actually this decision back then means that this is the only way forward?
I would say the first time when another huge career portal asked about cooperation, or VCs asked about cooperation and funding, there was always this strategic investor who, of course, had their own objectives, where it kind of limited us to do those things. Still, we have to say that we are happy how it turned out, of course, but it could have turned out completely different without the strategic investor.
Here's a question from the audience, which I like. How did you decide who the CEO was? Sorry, when you founded Hokify?
That's a really good question, because before I saw Hansi in the speakers lounge, and I remember first Pioneers Festival, we were pitching to Hansi Hansmann. He was back then invested in Watchado.
Watchado.
Yeah. So he wasn't allowed to do another investment in the same space. But the one thing he told us, I think back then, was you need a CEO. And we didn't have a CEO until the exit. So we were 3 founders. We were always on the same level. We were really good friends before. We are still.
That's a good thing.
And I think for us, it turned out to work really well, having 3 CEOs, co-CEOs, and we kind of always managed to. We had tough decisions. Usually, Simon was the toughest one in our discussions, but back then we always agreed. And then the good thing was, being friends was even an advantage, I would say, in our case, because we had fierce discussions, and then we decided, okay, that's the strategy we go for. And then we decided, okay, now there's no discussion anymore, let's go for it.
How far did that moment where you recognized, okay, we do have that strategic investor on board, so therefore the options are becoming limited, and how far did it do something to your mindset that you suddenly went like, okay, understood, it's not the Mount Everest potentially, but it's maybe Großglockner or something, which is also great, but knowing people like you, it's always Mount Everest, right? And as soon as that's taken, something happens.
Yeah, of course it does something. I mean, we believe the product Hokify to be something at least that works in whole of Europe. And we had to fight for a pretty long time to be able to do a proper Germany launch. Now Hokify is 50-50 of the revenue in Austria and Germany. But yeah, this maybe was also one trigger point where we said, okay, when we do it again, and we want to do it again, let's be more aware of what it means to have a strategic investor. But I have to add one point.
Go for it.
Having a strategic investor early on kind of forced us to be profitable faster. Now, the last couple of years haven't been too easy for VC-funded companies. It was really hard to make funding rounds. It was really hard to get capital in. We didn't need to. So we have been profitable for quite some time. Still, we have a compound annual growth rate of 100%. So, I mean, profitable growth is possible, but still, it's a bit different than hypergrowth, I would say.
Now I can see you're itching to talk about the new baby, like the new company baby, but I still have one more question, or maybe Markus also has a couple. Now, let's talk about the exit. So this is something, you know it's happening. You probably know a month in advance. That's like the only end of the road there'll be, and you and your co-founders sit down and say, okay, that's it. That's cool. And then the exit happens. I'd like to know like 2 or 3 moments. How does it feel when you sign it? How does it feel when you get whatever, not as much like cash, but suddenly you get more comfort probably on your bank account? And thirdly, how does it feel the first Monday when you're not going to office?
Okay, what was the first one again?
I forgot.
Okay, so
When you sign it. Yeah.
So when you sign it, also first of all, before signing it, I think it develops. So even I think a year before signing it, the drive within us to build something new was growing every day. Sure. So we enjoyed it massively to go into the office. We have a great team. We love the people. They're still very good friends. But then day by day, it kind of grew. We love to build a company, scale the company. But at one point, we kind of realized, hey, we learned so much we want to do it again. And this happened over, I would say, maybe a year or even longer, 1.5 years. Then there's some negotiations, and then you sign it. I think in the moment of signing it, the first thing you feel is being really thankful and proud. So thankful to all the people. Even today in the event, I met one of our first employees, and she congratulated us to the exit, and I first said, okay, and you have been part of it. So really thankful. And then regarding the cash on the bank account, so when we started, we had this game, Simon, Daniel and I, where we checked at the 15th of each month, we checked who was most in debt on his bank account. So that's not the case anymore, but I would say even when you create some personal wealth, it gives you stability, it gives you security, that's a really nice thing. But I would say that's like a short-term emotion you have. It feels nice, of course it feels nice. I mean, I would be lying if I tell the opposite. But then this goes away pretty fast.
Just want to jump in there quickly. I bet you had fantasies about that. The first time when you thought about founding a company, oh, the big exit, this is what I'm going to do, that's what I'm going to do. How did fantasy and reality differ?
I wouldn't say that it's so much different, but even before we knew it's kind of a milestone. So having now sold the company, in the moment for a short time feels great and you have some personal wealth. But then I think the day afterwards already, you kind of feel obliged that you now use all the knowledge and also the funds that you created to build something new. So, I mean, the first thing we were discussing is, okay, how can we actually be part of Speed Invest, for example? So how can we actually use our funds to help create more companies? And then the next step is, okay, how can we use all our knowledge to build new companies, build our own company? So I would even say, financially it feels really nice in the moment, but the emotions fade away pretty fast, I would say.
And the third one was like, how did you feel the first time you didn't go to the office on a Monday morning?
That was actually the one thing that we feared most. Because we love to go into the office. We have been an office-first company. I would say 80% of the whole company is always in the office. I think for me personally, it was a bit easier because I had a big family project starting pretty soon after the exit. So I became daddy 2 weeks after the exit.
Best thing ever.
But I think also for Simon and Daniel, it was not easy not to be there anymore. But then we also valued the possibility now to research new topics, to invest in our passion. We loved recruiting, but we kind of still, it was not the personal passion of us. We kind of found the idea, and then we were working in the industry for quite some time now, and we love it. But I think we also have so many other passions, and now we are able to pursue them.
So you went from CEO to Chief Nappy Officer, and then probably at the same time you were going like, okay, let's do this again. I can see Markus' big smile over there. Now's the part you want to talk about, right? Like how is that different?
I mean, I actually have, before we go to the next, I still want to know maybe one question about the negotiation going on about the exit, because I also feel that this is often probably being caught in two minds. You want to in some way get out of it and then start the next thing, but at the same time you're still very emotionally in it, and you want to preserve the legacy that you've built. How did those negotiations go? How did you actually tell your strategic investor and potentially buyer that you want to get completely out of it and still have a good negotiation positioning also? Because I guess if you're too clear, then immediately you give away some leverage, no?
So I would say when you have a strategic investor and the path is pretty determined, it makes sense to talk about this early on. And lucky for us, we did that. So kind of, we had some options on the table, but we also had some options that kind of reflected what happens when we want to go out. So it made the whole negotiations way easier with our investors. Regarding the feeling that this is your baby and you want to keep the success story of your baby, I think it really depended on us. So we were committed to making sure that there's a management layer. So a really good management layer. So even before telling the company that we plan to be out, we sat together and invested a lot of time and resources into, hey, how can we make it more resilient? Where's the most critical parts? Who do we have to hire to cover that? And then we were also happy with our chief of staff, Christian. We had him on board a year before, and it was like, I would say, the perfect opportunity also to be sure that you hand it over to someone where you are certain that the success story continues.
Maybe one follow-up question there.
Yeah.
Did you, when you hired him, was that clear that that path is there? And generally, how transparent were you with the team? Because I imagine that it's tough if you hire new people and show them the vision, but somehow you also know, actually, we're going to leave that ship soon.
Of course, with Christian, we have been fully transparent about the options or about what could happen, but it wasn't certain, and also we didn't hire him for being the CEO of the company. We hired him for chief of staff. For the whole company, I think it's a really difficult act. So we also had different ideas within our founding team. Do you tell it really early on, but then you have the problem of shadow management, kind of, when you tell the company pretty early on that you are out, and then there's employees having questions. It's sometimes really hard who to ask. So do you ask the founders, but actually they are not in control anymore in a couple of months? Do you ask the new management, but the new management might not be here yet? So we decided actually for a process with a really short period. And in hindsight, I would say it worked pretty smoothly. Of course, for some it was a shock that we are out so fast. But I think for the whole company, I would still say that it was the best decision. Yeah.
Let's do a quick round of Slidos before we do get to the new baby. When did you three start paying yourselves, and how did you manage financially until then?
This still goes back to the, I would say, once in a lifetime opportunity to start the company when you're still at uni or shortly before graduation, because we had a student life. I mean, you don't have a lot of costs to cover, and so we didn't have to pay ourselves anything. We just continued living our student life. We had no office. We booked project rooms at the university, and this was our office. So we didn't have a lot of costs. We worked actually for half a year, even longer, without officially starting the company, not to have like bookkeeping costs and all that kind of costs that come along. So we tried to keep costs as low as possible, as long as possible. And then we decided first of all, we decided that we need to have a funding. In the market, in our private situation, we knew that it wasn't possible to finance it ourselves. We knew that at one point we need some funding to be able to build the company. And then with the first funding round, we actually started paying ourselves a small salary.
Here's a very good question. Did you hire new employees with your own app?
Of course.
I was expecting to go, nah, that was crap. Never used it. No, of course, it's amazing. How many darlings did you have to kill to find your next great idea?
We haven't found it yet.
Good.
So I think there are many darlings out there. As I mentioned before, having now the free space to be open for many new topics, and it's a really cool opportunity to be able to dive into many new industries and get to know many new founders, and it's just great to be so open-minded and not to be. We want to we want to not get into too much detail too early. We want to remain open-minded, and we just said we use the whole year for actually, just getting to know as many ideas as possible. And then, if we didn't, have the one thing by the end of the year, we close ourselves in for a month, and then after the month we have to have the perfect idea then.
I mean, just to ask the question, but I kind of answered it. How likely is it to build and exit your next project?
I would say it's really small.
The building or the exit part?
The exit. So we want to build a company. We will for sure build a company. I hope not only one. I hope there's many more to follow. The chances for an exit are pretty low in general. I mean, you know that better than I am. I know that. But it's just, it's just the drive, the inner drive, that you know that you can build something that has an impact. That's really motivating, and I think that really drives us. And if you can combine that with your personal passion, I think that's all you can aim for. Yeah.
How is building or starting to build your company now different than you did it back then? How's your process different? How's your ideation? How's your tools, your mindset, your skills? Just talk us through how you do it now as a seasoned entrepreneur with an exit under your belt.
So first of all, we have an Asana board, and we have a really long Asana board by now, and everyone pops in ideas, markets, etc., etc. And I think what we are now aware of is what do we want to build? So first of all, do we want to build a company? So do we want to build something that is profitable from the beginning on? We see that as our lifetime project. We don't even want to think about an exit. We want to build a sustainable company from the beginning on. Or do we want to build a unicorn? Do we see that great of an impact that we say, okay, this is the idea, and we believe that with VC funding, we can really build a unicorn. And I think that's really different from back then, because back then we didn't even have the question in our mind.
A couple of minutes ago, you said it was really good building your first company, not knowing a thing, being naive about it. Now you kind of do know a couple of things. Yeah. How hard is it to keep your mind free? Where, I mean, the more experience one has, the more one goes like, yeah, I know that won't work because I've seen it 10 times. That won't work, I've seen it 20 times. Just to go like, yeah, but what if? So talk us about that.
Yeah, I think that there's really the fear that you become a naysayer. In every idea and in every topic, you see something why it should not work. When we think back to when we started with Job Swiper, I wouldn't do it again. So, no, I would, definitely. But you see so many things. When you think about a startup idea, there's so many challenges. And I think you just have to select the right challenges. And we even say that we know that we might pivot the product so many times that we might not even go for an idea, but we rather go for a market, or we rather go for a hypothesis. Let's say that we believe that the Austrian healthcare system can be way better, or the European healthcare system can be way better. We can all live longer, healthier lives. That's actually broad enough. I think that's broad enough to really work on ideas, pivot many times, find new challenges, find a product, then start over, etc., etc.
A bit of a personal one. You had this exit now, so there is some financial wealth that comes with it. And Daniel just mentioned there's something beautiful and nice about the naive perspective of first time starting a company. And at the same time, there are some people who say the moment you build up wealth, it needs some kind of headspace, some kind of effort to actually preserve it, to take care of it. Now, from your experience of being in this situation for a few months, do you feel that it's somehow distracting you sometimes, or is it actually liberating because you don't have to worry about paying rent at the moment?
I would say it's liberating in a sense that you made sure that even if you didn't have funding by the end of the year, you can still pay rent. It's liberating in a sense that you do not compare how much you are in debt by the mid of each month with your co-founders. Instead, you kind of can invest going for a week off-site and work together. So I think it's liberating, of course. I would not say it puts some pressure on us. We don't see ourselves as financial investors now. I think we see ourselves as entrepreneurs. And this wealth that we built kind of gives us the opportunity to be even more focused on building another company and giving ourselves even more time to pivot and working on the idea and ideation phase way longer than we could have done before. And also it's kind of liberating that we are not in a situation that we have to take the first round of funding if we are not happy about it, because we can just say, okay, no, that's not the perfect funding round. We can just wait for another couple of months and see what's coming up.
How has becoming a dad changed the way you're building companies now?
I don't know yet, to be honest, but can you tell me about it?
I mean, I'm asking because before I was a dad, I was thinking mainly in quarterly targets, financial targets, personal targets, things I need to do, things I believe in. And ever since being a dad, I'm thinking, first of all, a lot more long term. I'm going like, holy shit, when he goes to school, he's 3 now, this has to happen. When he goes to university, that's what I'd like to create for him together with my wife. And at the same time, there's been one more factor that's become the most precious thing in my life, and that's the factor time. For me, having sufficient time with my little one has become one of the most valuable assets I have, and having a certain level of flexibility in it. So what I'm saying is, when I started my first company in 2010, I worked 7 days a week. I worked stupid hours, like stupid hours. And that's something I would only be prepared to do for a very short period of time, and only if it's the thing. Before that, I just go like, yeah, fuck it, I'm in. And that's something I've seen, and it's changed me fundamentally as the way I am as a human as well, because it's just so different. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think you definitely want to be more efficient in what you do, but on the other hand, I do not believe in part-time starting a company. So I'm really aware that building a new company takes time, takes hustle, takes pain, takes long hours. I think if I would not be committed to do that, also with the sacrifice of spending time with family, I would tell my co-founders, and I think it would not be the right thing to do it. So I'm definitely convinced that without hustle and without the long hours, it's gonna be tricky to build another company.
But I'm not saying without. I'm just saying the preparedness to do that.
Yeah. I will. Hopefully, I can tell you in a couple of months how it turned out. But yeah, it's a balancing act, of course. I love to spend time with family. I love to spend time with my co-founders, and I'm really motivated to build another company. And we see a lot of big challenges out there that need to be solved. We talked about many of them today. So I kind of also feel obliged to do it because I've learned so much, and it's mandatory. For me, for Simon, for Daniel, it kind of feels mandatory to do it. Yeah.
Cool.
You mentioned now before the strategic investment was in some way a limiting factor. Now, if you're looking to the next company, is it for you clear you want to go the venture way and really build a unicorn, or is that still something you're discussing, thinking about?
Actually, what we believe is it really depends on the idea, market, product. So I really do think that building a legacy without venture capital is a really cool thing. So there's so many cool companies without venture capital. They build really cool employers. They create a lot of value for society. without venture capital. On the other hand, there's also really cool venture capital-backed companies that have a massive impact on society. So I would not say one is better than the other. I would say that actually it really depends on the market, the idea and the product, what is needed to execute.
Yeah. Maybe a follow-up question here, because you also before, I think you said, actually you see yourself, the three of you, starting many more companies. Is there a perspective or some kind of scenario where you see yourself being in a company, in one company for the rest of your career? Or is it clear for you you want the exit at some point because you want to start something new again?
No, I said it because I really know the statistics and I know that the chances of the next company being successful and a sustainable company are low, to be honest. And we're really aware that we have to be aware, all of us interested in starting a company, the chances that your company is going to be the next unicorn, they are rather low. So I said it having in mind that the next one might not be it. So that might take, I think it might take a couple of shots to be successful.
Okay, and now imagine the next company is because the statistics, especially in Austria, show that there's quite a few companies who are successful SMEs, but never get to the exit, but also never get to bankruptcy. So
you're talking about the zombies.
Yeah, or some of them are zombies, but I think some of them are actually working. But it's very difficult also for the founders to have an exit scenario there. Is that something you're scared of? Is that something you're thinking about when discussing new companies?
I think we are not really scared of that, but we all would be not committed to do it permanently. So to be really open, we of course would have the chance to stay on board of the management at Hokify with the Karriere strategic partner way longer, but it wasn't an option for us because we said, okay, now we need to do something new. So I'm not scared about it, but I think we wouldn't just be committed to do it for a very long time.
Let's have a look at Slido again. There's three interesting questions. Maybe the first one is a question about mental health. I'll rephrase it a bit because it's about your first company. I'm curious, did you take care of your mental health during your first company, and how has that changed to now?
I think the question and also the first one before relates a lot to what we're interested in right now and what could be a future topic. So we experienced startup roller coaster, long working hours, a lot of sacrifice, but I think throughout the whole process, most of the times we managed to stay healthy, mentally healthy, in a good shape. We kind of managed to do enough sport, enough party also, but still Daniel did his first Ironman when he was still in Hokify. Simon just finished the marathon in a really good time, and we did that the whole time when we were working at the company. And so I think we found some balance between being mentally healthy, in a good shape, and also working long hours. And I wouldn't say we change it now. I would say we really want to make use of that, possibly, because I see many founders struggling with it. And for us, we kind of found a mixture that was really healthy in the long run.
There was a question that disappeared, but I'd still like to ask it. Was what are you passionate about right now? I mean, you kind of dropped it already. I mean, you dropped it a couple of things, but was besides family, what excites you?
Yeah, as I said before, I think the topic health tech and taking care of our health is really interesting. I mean, here's a community of soon-to-be founders, really successful business leaders, business people, tech people, of course. It isn't about just living longer, but it's about living healthier. And I mean, the years that we have left on this wonderful planet, they are limited. But I do believe that those years can be really cool, healthy. you can enjoy working, you can enjoy time with your family, friends, etc. And on the other hand, I see a lot of illnesses, mental health issues, etc. That's preventing you from doing that. So that's actually one big passion. You can call it longevity. There's many different phrases out there. I think that's one thing that we're really passionate about. That's also a tricky topic, especially in Europe with a lot of public healthcare, private healthcare. I think there's a lot of things going on. And then I think a second topic that's really, at least that I'm really passionate about is, in many companies I see HR leaders, not to offend anyone here, that are a bit older than the new the new people coming to the labor market right now. And I think there's a lot of a gap between the decision makers in HR, in large corporations, small corporations, also startups, and the companies entering, the people entering the labor market. And I see I'm sure there needs to, there is a lot to change to happen. Working more flexible, how someone is motivated to work long hours, for example. We did a lot of experiments in our company already with KPI dashboards. How can we make sure that every employee in the company knows how he or she is paying into the overall goal of the company? So I think motivating people, making sure to intrinsically motivate people to be part of a bigger goal in a corporation is also really interesting.
Are you open to receiving startup ideas from others, or is it important that you or the inner circle have the idea to be passionate about it?
I'm really open to receiving startup ideas.
Brother, you're going to be pitched at very hard now.
But I have to say that the idea is not the most important thing. In my point of view, it's all about execution.
How do you deal with distractions? Obviously not. I'm kidding.
I think back to the intense times that you have in starting a company, I think you have to be willing to make sacrifices. And sacrifices means, distraction is the wrong word, but of course we also had times where we didn't have enough time with our friends and families that we would love to have. So I would say that starting a company is really about being focused on the one thing that you want to achieve. And once you're really into that, and once you're committed on building something that has an impact, I think it's not so hard anymore to fight against distractions, because there's nothing more important out there than building the company.
Are you planning to build a diverse team for the next company idea?
Behind the stage, I was talking to VC, and she told me, I hope you have a female co-founder on board the next time, and my answer was, I hope so too. I hope so too, definitely. And I think it's really important to have more diverse founder teams.
Cool. Here maybe a follow-up question, because you three have been building together companies now for a few years. You're very much a team that is used to each other. How do you think now, if you add a fourth person to the mix, how would you position that? What do you think could be the strengths that you're looking for? Also maybe some potential co-founders in the room. And how would you also then try to properly involve this fourth person to really make her part of this currently triumvirate, which is really close?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm quite certain that it's not an easy task, because we're so close and we work together for such a long time. But we are also aware that when we start a new company, we most likely not going to be the experts in the topic that we are tackling. So no matter what it is, we are certain that there's so many people out there that have the domain knowledge that we don't have. And so we're really eager to bring that on board, of course. and we are aware that, let's say we go into longevity, we are not the PhDs with the knowledge. So we have to be open for that, and we are open for that.
Cool.
How likely is it that you're building a company now, and how likely is it that you're building 3 or 4 or 5 in parallel? Asking for a friend.
I'm really a fan of focus, and I think it's really important, and it helps you a lot to be focused. And that's why the simple answer is that it's 100% that we only build one company.
So no kind of like traditional serial, but no multi.
Serial, of course. I think it's very likely that there's going to be more than one to be successful. But we are all fans of being focused. And I think for us at least, it helped us a lot not to be to be active in too many companies at the same time, because then again we are back at distractions. When you have your one vision, your one goal, your one company that you want to build, I think you should invest all the time you have into the one thing and not be distracted by different topics.
A very quick follow-up before you go. Is there a phase that you enjoyed the most in building the company?
I think I enjoyed every phase because at least I have a business. We all have kind of a business background, and in business school we also learned project management, etc., etc. So I would not say that we are those visionary Steve Jobs kind of guys that are the vision guys, and they don't love to execute and build structure and build management, etc., etc. So we also loved the later stage. You can imagine with 100 employees, the job kind of changes.
Slightly, yeah.
So before that, I was shaping the product every day, and I was sitting together with Simon and the small product team, and we were rolling out features almost every day. A couple of years later, I was sitting a lot of meetings and guiding product managers, etc. So it was different, but I still enjoyed it a lot. But of course, when we think about starting again, I think we are all very much looking forward to being a very small team again, very agile, experimenting a lot, working really fast. That's something that I'm really looking forward to.
Talking about focus again, I think this is one of the biggest challenges in the very early stages, to find this moment where you said, this is it now, this is where we focus. Do you have some kind of plan how you will do that? Because at the moment you're obviously opening up the funnel, building this Asana list. What's the next step where you find that focus? What kind of proof of concept, proof of market do you need to say, let's go?
I'm not 100% sure how it will happen this time, but how we did it back then was we kind of set ourselves milestones or goals. Back then when we started, we kind of said, okay, now we have this idea, and now we need to make sure that we get, I don't know, 50 interviews with potential employers that are on board and help us shape the product. The next milestone was, okay, we need to have 10 paying clients. And then step by step, we kind of moved forward, and I think it's probably be the same this time. So we have an idea, we kind of set ourselves some goals, some milestones, we try to achieve them, and then let's do the next step.
What is your number one metric or factor to choose the next business idea? Is there one you're looking for?
That's a really tough question. I would say it's not a business metric yet. Of course, market size and potential impact that it could have is crucial. Yeah. We are looking at that, but we're still in a phase where we're talking about industries, markets, so we're not yet there to really say, okay, we need to have this or that metric.
There was one I just saw. What would you change about the Austrian startup ecosystem to make it more attractive for creating a startup here?
So we had a lot of discussions today on stage that were not super optimistic about the Austrian startup ecosystem, the European startup ecosystem versus the US startup ecosystem, for example. And then I was sitting next to a friend and we were saying, okay, actually we think that the startup ecosystem is not too bad. And I think we are the best example that it's possible to really build a successful company. And I mean, we started 9 years ago. In the last 9 years, so many things changed. It's so much better now. The options you have they have improved 100-fold. So I wouldn't even say that, yeah, there's the one thing that could be improved. I would say, first of all, make sure that you really utilize all the great things that you have here. Is it grants? Is it all the options you have here? Of course, I could say that labor costs should be lower and all those kind of factors, but we all know that. But think about the positive things that you have, and I think there's so many positive initiatives and factors that you can use to build a company, and I would rather focus on that.
We covered the top question with the financial problems at the beginning. I just popped up that one. What was your most inspirational mentor, advisor, or supporter when creating your company?
I think for every startup phase, there's this phase where you try to reach out to as many people as possible and go to events like this and talk to as many people as possible. But then there's also the phase in a startup where I believe it's the right time to not talk to too many people, but to focus on working, to focus on execution. In our early stage, we really enjoyed a lot talking to a lot of investors, etc. And I would not point out a single one, but we have Hansi Hansmann here. I remember him telling us, okay, when you want to start the platform, make sure that you make this market in the beginning as small as possible. And we told him, yeah, we make this job platform and we cover all industries and all jobs. And I remember it word by word. He told us, but if you want to build a platform for recruiting, why don't you just focus on male models above the height of 1.85 meters? Make the market really small, try to be successful in a small market, and then see if the market spills over, like if you can be, if you make a difference in the small market. And I think we had many of those inspirational mentors that helped us along the way. But then also, I have to say that I think many startups miss out the phase when it's not the right time to be on events all the time, but rather focus on execution and really be in the office long hours and focus on executing, building something. And then there's the phase again when you go out again.
I mean, how's your day currently? I mean, the way it sounds to me is like the three of you sitting together, talking, brainstorming about ideas. You sitting in an office together, playing pool or crunching numbers on Excel or going for long runs, having conversations?
A mixture of those? No.
But is it essentially three buddies having an awesome time while building new companies? And is that maybe like the essence you are looking for? Something that excites the three of you?
So first of all, I would say that we used the first 3 months that we get our minds clear. So we didn't talk too much about possible ideas and markets yet. And Daniel was doing a vacation for 3 months, so we didn't see him at all. And so when he's coming back, actually next Thursday, there's going to be the first meeting. Afterwards, I can tell you how it turned out.
But how is it going to happen in your mind? Is it like you have a ton of ideas and you pitch them all and they go like, nah, that's boring, that's crap, and the next one and the next one, and suddenly there's that idea where you go like, I kind of thought about that all night long. That's a good one. Is that the way I can assume it? And do you have an office for that?
No, we don't have an office. I think we just get together, discuss the ideas, discuss the passions. I think we have some shared passions already. And at one point, I think there's this trigger. We don't know yet when it actually happens, where you say, okay, now it's time to get going again.
And how likely is it that it's your idea of one of the three? And how likely is it like every 3, 4, 5 months I meet this one person where I think, holy shit, she's going places. And how likely is it that it's maybe an external person that impresses you all and you just do everything to make that work?
I would say it's very likely because we don't have all the knowledge, especially in the new areas that we are concerned with. But I don't know, to be honest. We have to figure that out.
Very curious, Markus.
You mentioned before that you're not really scared of starting something where then you can't exit. Is there something that scares you if you look ahead at the next adventure and number one, and what are you most looking forward to?
No, I'm not scared at all, to be honest. The one thing that I'm scared of, I told you already, is that you are too less naive and you see too many problems in each idea and topic and market. I think, yeah, we have to make sure that this is not happening. But besides that, I feel really motivated actually to take one of those huge topics out there and start building a new venture that has a positive impact on as many lives as possible.
What are you doing today for your own health and longevity? I'm not seeing any trackers there. Or is that... Oh, that's one. Okay, I missed that.
Of course, there's the Garmin app.
Good.
We're doing a lot of sports. And we did that the whole time when we were doing the company. We invested a lot into our own health. I think reading helped us a lot. So we're good in reflecting upon our own weeks. So I had this process where I reflected after each week and what I'm grateful for, what I was doing right, what could I do better. So I think there's many different things. We focus on mental health, physical health, and then on also making sure that you are really well reflected what you are doing.
So I'd like to slowly start wrapping this up. And I'll try and summarize some of the learnings we had just now. And then I'd also be keen to hear some of your opinions on advice you'd like to give to this crowd here. And maybe not like the standard advice, but something nitty-gritty which is very dear to your heart. So we kind of learned that when you started off your first company, that one of the key powers was, besides being very close friends, was, well, not having anything and therefore being really driven and going focused. And you also mentioned that one of your strengths was not having a product, but going to the customer early, talking to them, learning with them together, and then building. Something I find very unusual, but very, very smart. Then we talked about the way kind of your job perspective also changed from being like basically three dudes, then right up to running a 100-people company. We talked about the exit and the way your exit was also somewhat predictable due to your strategic investor, and that you also felt that the time was getting closer and closer and closer to offboard. However, that you still have that itch together with your mates again to start something new, and that the key drive there is potentially somewhere in the healthcare system, but it has to be something you really want to have to change, and you believe in 100% focus. The next idea doesn't necessarily have to be one of your ideas, but you're very much open for someone else to be that idea giver. And to summarize that, what is it I forgot?
I think when I'm asked about the 3 major success factors for Hokify, when that's suitable to wrap it up, I would say first, it's a strong vision. So building this platform focused on job seekers. This helped us through a lot of struggle. So this helped us through many distractions, crisis, etc. So first of all, I would say this is key. Having this strong vision. Second one is culture. I mean, we also had really bad times. We had to let go of people. We faced really bad times also in our startup roller coaster. But we've always managed to have a culture where everyone is working together in harmony and everyone wants to create an impact. I do believe that building a 100-people company is really hard. But doing that with a team that's not in harmony and doing that with real motivation is impossible. And then the third thing I would say is really execution. It sounds really cheesy, but I do believe that no pain, no gain. So also in our case, building the company now requires a lot of effort, requires a lot of sacrifices. And I would say for everyone who wants to start a successful company, everyone has to be willing to do that. And I would say that's the three major learnings that I had for the last couple of years.
That's strong words. Markus, what would you like to add or ask?
Nothing. I think those were really nice closing words.
I do have one question. You have a son, right?
Daughter?
Daughter, okay, sorry. How early are you going to start infecting her with the entrepreneurial bug? And have you already bought your first book on that?
It was just a couple of days ago where I read to her Guy Kawasaki, The Art of the Startup. She was falling asleep, but she listened to it.
And how would you help her if she would want to found a company? Because I know like bootstrapping, going the extra mile, suffering, investing, versus having a daughter who needs support. Like, how would you go on about that?
I'm not sure she wants me to support her back then when she's ready to start her own company. But I would say I would really try to be open about anything she wants to do and support her in anything she wants to do. It does not have to be her own company, because I believe there's so many great career opportunities out there that have huge impact on society.
I love that. Guy Kawasaki, what made you do that?
I love the book.
Is there like a second book you would advise anyone else to read?
Oh, there's many. I really like Eric Ries, of course. I think it's great when you are in an early phase of a startup, the art of the startup. And yeah, I think when you look for business books, Markus and Daniel are more suitable to recommend all the best books out there.
That's a very elegant way of saying you don't know. But that's also something you learn in building companies, is having the ability to circumnavigate challenges.
True.
Markus, do you want to say anything else? Any closing words? Shall I wrap it up?
No, I have a book recommendation. Read Radical Candor from Kim Scott.
Kim Scott, yeah.
That's a good one. Now, big thanks to you, Karl. It was a pleasure. In that sense, thank you very much. Stay safe, take care, and have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.